I knew something was wrong the moment I stepped onto the rooftop, but I still forced a smile as I walked in, telling myself, "Relax, Jason, it's just a party." The music was loud, lights glowing over the skyline, people laughing like nothing in the world could go wrong. I spotted Ryan near the bar and raised my hand. "Hey man," I called out, stepping closer. He turned, grin wide, but something about it felt off. "Jason, you made it," he said, clapping my shoulder. I looked around. "Where's Olivia?" I asked. He hesitated for a second too long. "She's around," he replied. I frowned. "Around?" He shrugged. "Yeah, just enjoying the night." I laughed lightly. "That doesn't sound like her." He didn't answer. That silence pressed on me harder than any words. I moved through the crowd, my chest tightening with every step, whispering to myself, "You're overthinking this, calm down." Then I heard her laugh. I froze. That laugh, I'd recognize it anywhere. I turned toward the sound and saw her standing near the glass railing. "Olivia," I called, relief hitting me for a split second. She turned slowly, and the moment our eyes met, something inside me cracked. She didn't look surprised. She didn't look guilty. She just looked calm. Then I noticed Ryan stepping up behind her, his hand brushing against her arm like it belonged there. I swallowed. "What's going on?" I asked quietly. Olivia tilted her head. "Jason, we need to talk." I let out a short laugh. "Now?" Ryan stepped closer. "Maybe not here," he said. I shook my head. "No, we're doing this here." "Jason, don't make a scene," Olivia said softly. I stared at her. "A scene?" I repeated. "You think I'm the one making a scene?" My voice stayed steady, but my hands clenched. Ryan sighed. "Look man, it just happened." I let out a bitter breath. "It just happened?" I echoed. Olivia crossed her arms. "We didn't plan it like this." I laughed again, sharper this time. "So what did you plan?" I asked. "To lie to me longer?" She looked away. "I didn't want to hurt you." I stepped closer. "You didn't want to hurt me?" I repeated slowly. "Then what do you call this?" Ryan rubbed his neck. "We didn't mean for you to find out like this." I nodded. "Oh, so the problem isn't what you did, it's that I saw it." No one answered. The music kept playing like nothing mattered. I looked around and noticed people watching us, whispering, pretending not to stare. I lowered my voice. "How long?" I asked. Olivia hesitated. Ryan answered instead. "A few months." I felt my heartbeat slow down, not faster. That scared me more than anything. "Months?" I repeated. Olivia stepped forward. "Jason, listen, it's complicated." I shook my head. "No, it's simple," I said. "You chose him." She bit her lip. "It's not about choosing." I smiled faintly. "It always is." Ryan stepped in again. "Don't do this, man." I looked at him. "Do what?" I asked. "Stand here and understand exactly who you are?" He frowned. "I didn't steal anything." I nodded slowly. "You're right," I said. "You didn't steal anything." I glanced at Olivia. She gave herself away. Olivia's voice softened. "Jason, I still care about you." I let out a quiet breath. "That's the problem," I said. "You care, but not enough." She reached out, but I stepped back. "Don't," I said calmly. Ryan looked frustrated. "Say something, man. Yell, punch me, do something." I shook my head. "Why?" I asked. "So you can feel better?" He stared at me. "That's not fair." I shrugged. "Neither is this." Olivia's eyes glistened. "I didn't want it to end like this." I looked at her, really looked this time, and realized something terrifying. "It didn't end tonight," I said quietly. "It ended the moment you stopped choosing me." She opened her mouth, but no words came out. The silence between us felt heavier than anything she could have said. I turned away slowly, my chest tight but my face calm, telling myself, "Don't break here, not in front of them." Ryan called after me, "Jason, wait." I stopped for a second but didn't turn back. "You're my best friend," I said quietly. "At least you were." He didn't respond. Olivia's voice followed, softer now. "Jason, please." I closed my eyes for a moment, then opened them again, staring out at the city lights. "Take care of her," I said. "You've already taken everything else." Then I walked forward, each step heavier than the last, but I didn't stop. I didn't look back. And as the noise of the party faded behind me, I realized something that settled deep in my chest like cold steel. The people I trusted most were the ones who destroyed me. But I didn't shout. I didn't fight. I didn't beg. I stayed silent. And in that silence, something inside me changed forever. Olivia walked back into my life like nothing had happened, like that night on the rooftop was just some bad dream I was supposed to forget. I opened the door and saw her standing there, dressed perfectly, that same soft smile on her face. "Jason," she said gently. I leaned against the frame and crossed my arms. "You look comfortable," I replied. She frowned slightly. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside without answering. She walked in like she still belonged there, like she hadn't shattered everything a few nights ago. "You didn't call," she said, glancing around. I let out a quiet breath. "I didn't think I needed to," I said. She turned toward me. "You're still upset." I laughed softly. "Still?" I repeated. "That's a good word choice." She hesitated. "Jason, it's not what you think." I shook my head. "Don't," I said. "Don't start with that." She took a step closer. "It's complicated," she said, her voice softer now. I looked at her for a long moment, then smiled faintly. "No," I said. "It's simple." She sighed. "You don't understand." I nodded slowly. "You're right," I said. "I don't understand how you looked at me every day and lied." She flinched. "I didn't lie about everything." I tilted my head. "Just the important parts?" She looked away. "Ryan didn't mean for things to go this far." I let out a sharp breath. "So now you're speaking for him too?" She shook her head. "I'm trying to fix this." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "Fix what?" I asked. "You already made your choice." She met my eyes. "It's not that simple." I smiled again, colder this time. "It always is." The door opened behind her and Ryan walked in like he belonged there too. "Hey," he said casually. I looked at him, then back at Olivia. "You brought him?" I asked. She raised her hands slightly. "We need to talk together." I chuckled under my breath. "Of course we do." Ryan stepped forward. "Jason, don't make this harder than it needs to be." I stared at him. "Harder?" I repeated. "You think this is hard for you?" He frowned. "I'm not the enemy here." I nodded slowly. "No," I said. "You're worse." Olivia stepped between us. "Stop," she said. "This isn't helping." I leaned back slightly. "Then why are you here?" I asked. She took a breath, then reached into her bag. "Because I want to make things right." I raised an eyebrow. "You think you can do that?" She pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. "What's this?" I asked. She looked at me carefully. "An opportunity." Ryan nodded beside her. "A big one." I didn't move. "Explain," I said. Olivia opened the folder and slid it toward me. "A private island investment," she said. I blinked once. "An island?" I repeated. She nodded. "It's part of a development project. High-end, exclusive, massive returns." I flipped through the papers slowly. "And this is for me?" I asked. She smiled softly. "For us." I paused, then looked up at her. "Us?" I echoed. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Olivia kept her gaze steady. "Yes," she said. "You deserve something big, something that changes everything." I closed the folder gently. "And what's the catch?" I asked. She shook her head. "There is no catch." I laughed quietly. "There's always a catch." Ryan stepped in again. "Look man, this is real," he said. "We're offering you a chance to be part of something huge." I leaned forward slightly. "We?" I asked. He nodded. "Yeah." I smiled faintly. "That's interesting," I said. "Because last time I checked, you two already had something huge." Olivia's expression tightened. "This isn't about that," she said. I looked at her. "Everything is about that," I replied. She stepped closer again. "Jason, please," she said. "This is me trying to make things right." I studied her face carefully, every detail, every small shift in her expression. "You're not trying to make things right," I said quietly. "You're trying to control the outcome." She froze. Ryan looked confused. "What does that even mean?" he asked. I leaned back. "It means this isn't about me," I said. "It's about making sure I don't become a problem." Olivia's voice dropped. "You're overthinking this." I shook my head slowly. "No," I said. "For the first time, I'm seeing things clearly." She crossed her arms. "So what now?" she asked. I looked at the folder again, then back at her. "Now," I repeated. I picked up the folder and tapped it lightly. "Now I accept." Ryan blinked. "Wait, really?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah," I said calmly. Olivia's eyes searched mine. "You mean that?" she asked. I smiled, the same calm smile I had worn at the party. "Of course," I said. Why wouldn't I? She relaxed slightly. I knew you'd understand. I nodded again. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said. Ryan let out a breath. Good, he said. That's good. I stood up and walked toward the window looking out at the city lights. When do we start? I asked. Olivia stepped closer behind me. Soon, she said. We just need your signature. I turned back slowly. You'll get it, I said. She smiled again, relieved now. Thank you, Jason. I nodded once. Don't thank me yet, I replied quietly. Ryan frowned slightly. What's that supposed to mean? He asked. I shrugged. Nothing, I said. Just thinking out loud. Olivia reached for my hand, but I stepped back before she could touch me. We're good then? She asked. I looked at her, really looked this time, and felt nothing. No anger, no pain, just clarity. We're business now, I said. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. Okay. Ryan gave me a small nod too. We'll send the final details, he said. I smiled faintly. I'll be waiting, I replied. They left a few minutes later, the door closing behind them with a quiet click. I stood there for a moment, then looked down at the folder in my hands. An island, I muttered to myself. I let out a slow breath and walked back to the table, placing it down carefully. You really think I didn't see through that? I said under my breath. I sat down and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. I'm not reacting anymore, I whispered. I'm planning. I didn't leave dramatically. I didn't post anything. I didn't call anyone. I just disappeared, quietly stepping out of their world like I was never part of it. A week after signing the island deal, I packed a small bag and stood in my apartment, staring at the walls. This is where you broke, I whispered to myself. My phone buzzed on the table. Ryan's name flashed. I let it ring, then it stopped. A second later, Olivia called. I picked up this time. Jason, she said softly, where are you? I leaned against the wall. Working, I replied. On what? She asked. I smiled faintly. On myself. She went quiet. You don't have to shut us out, she said. I shook my head. I'm not shutting you out, I said. I'm just not standing where you left me anymore. She didn't respond and I ended the call. 2 days later, I walked into a quiet office downtown, the kind of place where silence felt expensive. A receptionist looked up. Name? She asked. Jason Carter, I replied. She nodded and gestured toward a glass door. Mr. Langston is expecting you. I stepped inside and saw Victor Langston standing by the window, his back to me. You're late, he said without turning. I checked my watch. By 30 seconds, I replied. He turned slowly, studying me. That tells me everything, he said. I frowned slightly. About what? He walked closer. About whether you value time, he said. I met his gaze. I do. He nodded once. Good. Because I don't work with people who don't. He gestured toward a chair. Sit. I sat down calmly. He leaned against the desk. Why are you here? He asked. I didn't hesitate. Because I want leverage, I said. He raised an eyebrow. Not revenge. I shook my head. Revenge is loud, I said. Leverage is quiet. A small smile appeared on his face. Interesting. Victor walked around the room slowly. Tell me what happened, he said. I looked at him. Does it matter? I asked. He stopped. It tells me if you're emotional or strategic, he replied. I leaned back slightly. I was betrayed, I said. By people I trusted. He nodded. And now? I smiled faintly. Now I'm done reacting. He studied me for a moment, then said, good answer. He picked up a file and tossed it onto the desk. The island deal, he said. I glanced at it. You've seen it? I asked. He smirked. I see everything that matters, he replied. You're being played. I nodded. I know. He paused. Then why accept it? I looked straight at him. Because sometimes the best move is to let people think they're winning. He chuckled softly. You're learning. I crossed my arms. I need someone who can teach me the rest. He leaned closer. I don't teach, he said. I test. I held his gaze. Then test me. Weeks turned into months and my life became something completely different. Again, Victor said sharply as I reviewed the numbers. I exhaled slowly. The margins don't add up, I replied. He nodded. Why? I leaned forward. Because someone's hiding costs, I said. He smiled faintly. Good. Now find who. I didn't sleep much during those days, but I didn't complain either. You're too soft, Victor said one evening. I looked up. Soft. I repeated. He nodded. You still hesitate, he said. Why? I thought for a second. Because I used to trust people, I answered. He shook his head. Trust is a liability, he said. Replace it with control. I nodded slowly. Understood. He studied me again. You're changing, he said. I didn't respond. He smiled slightly. That's what I wanted. Meanwhile, my phone kept lighting up with messages I didn't answer. Jason, where are you? Olivia texted. We need to talk. I ignored it. Ryan sent a message too. You disappeared, man. Everything good? I looked at the screen, then locked it without replying. One night, Daniel called me. You alive? He asked. I smirked slightly. Barely, I said. He laughed. What are you doing? I looked out the window. Building something, I replied. He went quiet for a moment. You sound different, he said. I nodded to myself. I am. He sighed. Just don't lose yourself in the process. I paused. I already did, I said. Now I'm building something better. He didn't argue. Victor handed me another file one morning. This is your test, he said. I opened it and scanned the contents. High risk, I said. He nodded. High reward, he replied. I looked up. And if I fail? He shrugged. Then you're not worth my time. I closed the file slowly. I won't fail, I said. He smirked. Confidence is cheap, he replied. Results aren't. I stood up. You'll get results, I said. As I walked toward the door, he called out, Jason? I stopped. Yes. He looked at me carefully. Don't let emotions ruin your strategy, he said. I nodded once. They won't. That night, I stood alone in my new apartment, holding the island documents again. You thought this was control, I said quietly. I placed the papers on the table and looked at my reflection in the window. You thought I'd stay the same, I added. My phone buzzed again, Olivia calling. I stared at it for a second, then turned it face down. You both think you've already won, I said under my breath. I picked up the file Victor gave me and flipped it open. But you have no idea, I continued softly. I sat down, my expression calm, my mind sharp. I'm not reacting anymore, I whispered. I'm playing. Months passed without me saying a word to either of them, but silence doesn't mean blindness. I saw everything. News traveled fast in the circles we were part of, and I stayed just close enough to hear it all. One evening, Victor looked at me across his desk and said, Your island partners are slipping. I leaned back slightly. Already? I asked. He nodded. Poor planning, emotional decisions, weak structure, he said. I smirked faintly. Sounds about right. He studied me. You're not surprised. I shook my head. They built something on betrayal, I said. That foundation doesn't hold. He smiled slightly. Good, he replied. You're learning to see patterns. I crossed my arms. I'm learning to wait, I said. He nodded once. Waiting is power, if you know when to move. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. Olivia. I stared at the screen for a second, then answered. Jason, she said quickly, almost too quickly. Hey, I replied calmly. She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath. We need to talk. I walked toward the window. About what? I asked. She hesitated. Things aren't smooth right now. I raised an eyebrow. Things? I repeated. She lowered her voice. The project, the investors, everything, she said. I stayed quiet. Ryan is handling it, she added. I let out a soft breath. Is he? I asked. She didn't answer immediately. He's trying, she said. I smiled faintly. Trying isn't enough, I replied. She sounded frustrated now. Jason, this isn't the time for that. I looked out at the city lights. Then when is? I asked. She went silent again. A few days later, I ran into Ryan at a private meeting space. He looked different, still confident on the surface, but something underneath had shifted. Jason, he said, forcing a smile. I nodded slightly. Ryan. He rubbed his hands together. You've been busy, he said. I shrugged. I don't waste time anymore. He chuckled awkwardly. Yeah, I can see that. I watched him carefully. You look tired, I said. His smile faded. Just pressure, he replied. I tilted my head. Pressure from what? He hesitated. The deal, he said. It's bigger than we expected. I nodded slowly. Or harder than you thought. He frowned. We've got it under control. I didn't respond immediately. Do you? I asked quietly. He looked away. That was my answer. Look, Ryan said after a moment, we might need your input. I raised an eyebrow. My input? I repeated. He nodded. You're part of this too. I let out a short laugh. I thought I was just an investor, I said. He stepped closer. You are, but, I cut him off. But now things aren't working, so suddenly I matter again? I asked. He clenched his jaw. That's not fair. I shrugged. Neither was what you did, I replied calmly. He looked frustrated. We're trying to fix it, he said. I leaned in slightly. You're trying to survive it, I corrected. He didn't argue. Instead, he looked at me like he was searching for something. Are you going to help or not? He asked. I stepped back. I'm already helping, I said. He frowned. How? I smiled faintly. By watching. That same week, Olivia showed up again, but this time she didn't look composed. Jason, she said, walking into my office without waiting. I looked up slowly. You should knock, I said. She ignored that. We have a problem, she said. I leaned back in my chair. I heard. She blinked. You heard? I nodded. I hear a lot of things. She paced slightly. Investors are pulling out, she said. Ryan made some decisions without consulting me. I raised an eyebrow. Without consulting you? I repeated. She stopped. Don't start, she said. I smiled faintly. I'm not starting anything, I replied. You already did. She looked at me, frustration clear in her eyes. We need you, she said. I stayed quiet for a moment. No, I said finally. You need control. Her voice softened suddenly. Jason, please, she said. I studied her face. The confidence was gone. The charm felt forced. You're losing it, I said quietly. She shook her head. No, we can fix this. I leaned forward slightly. You can't fix something that was never built right, I said. She stepped closer. We can rebuild, she insisted. I tilted my head. With what? I asked. Trust. She didn't answer. I nodded slowly. Exactly. She clenched her hands. Ryan is making things worse, she admitted. I raised an eyebrow. Now he is. I asked. She looked away. He's not thinking clearly. I smiled faintly. That happens when people build something they don't understand. She looked back at me. So you're just going to sit there and watch everything fall apart? I held her gaze. Yes, I said calmly. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. You've changed, she said quietly. I nodded once. I had to, I replied. She swallowed. This isn't you. I leaned back again. This is exactly me, I said. You just never saw it. She shook her head. You're being cold. I smiled faintly. No, I said. I'm being clear. She looked like she wanted to say more, but the words didn't come. Finally, she turned away. This isn't over, she said. I watched her walk toward the door. It already is, I replied. After she left, I sat there for a moment, letting the silence settle. My phone buzzed again, Ryan this time. I didn't answer. I already knew what he wanted. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. You thought you won, I said quietly. I picked up the island file from my desk and flipped it open. But this was never your game, I added. I closed the file slowly, my expression calm, my mind steady. It's just starting, I whispered. The moment came quietly, not with noise or drama, but with a single call that changed everything. I was sitting across from Victor when my phone buzzed. Answer it, he said without looking up. I glanced at the screen, Grace Bennett. I picked up. Jason, she said, voice sharp and precise. It's done. I leaned back slightly. Explain, I said. She didn't waste time. Control of the island project has shifted. Majority leverage is now under your authority. I paused for a second. Fully? I asked. Fully, she confirmed. Victor looked at me. Well, he asked. I ended the call and smiled faintly. It's mine, I said. Victor nodded once. Good, he replied. Now let's see how you handle power. I stood up slowly. I'm not handling it, I said. I'm using it. An hour later, I walked into the same conference room Olivia and Ryan once controlled. The atmosphere felt different now. Lighter. Sharper. Mine. Olivia stood up the moment she saw me. Jason, she said, her voice tight. Ryan stayed seated, but I could see the tension in his posture. You didn't tell us you were coming, he said. I pulled out a chair and sat down calmly. I didn't need to, I replied. Olivia exchanged a glance with Ryan. What's going on? She asked. I placed a file on the table and slid it toward them. Read, I said. Ryan grabbed it first, flipping through the pages quickly. His expression shifted. This isn't possible, he said. Olivia took the file and scanned it, her face slowly losing color. Jason, she whispered, what is this? I leaned back, watching them carefully. This is the new structure, I said. Ryan shook his head. No, this is wrong, he said. We built this. I tilted my head. Did you? I asked. Olivia looked at me, her voice unsteady. You can't just take control like this. I smiled faintly. I didn't take anything, I said. I positioned myself. Ryan slammed the file shut. This is manipulation, he snapped. I shrugged. It's strategy, I corrected. Olivia stepped closer. Jason, we need to talk about this, she said. I nodded. We're talking, I replied. You're just not hearing what you want. Ryan stood up abruptly. You think this makes you powerful? He asked. I met his gaze calmly. No, I said. This makes me in control. He scoffed. You're overstepping. I leaned forward slightly. Am I? I asked. Because from where I'm sitting, you're the one losing ground. Olivia stepped between us. Stop, she said. Both of you. I looked at her. You don't get to control this anymore, I said quietly. She froze. Jason? I raised a hand slightly. No, I said. Listen. She went silent. You wanted control, I continued. You wanted something bigger than me, bigger than us. So I gave you space to chase it. I paused, then added, and now it's mine. The room felt heavier now, like the air itself had shifted. Ryan ran a hand through his hair. We can fix this, he said quickly. I looked at him. You still think this is broken, I replied. It's not. Olivia shook her head. This isn't how it was supposed to go, she said. I smiled faintly. You're right, I said. It's not. She stepped closer again, her voice softer now. Jason, we can work this out, she said. I studied her face, searching for something familiar, but there was nothing there. You had your chance to work things out, I said. You chose something else. She swallowed. I made a mistake, she admitted. Ryan looked at her, surprised. Olivia? She ignored him. Jason, please, she said. We can start over. I let out a slow breath. Start over? I repeated. With what? She hesitated. With us, she said. I shook my head. There is no us, I replied. Ryan stepped forward. You don't mean that, he said. I looked at him. I do, I said. He clenched his jaw. You're just trying to hurt us now. I smiled slightly. No, I said. I'm just not protecting you anymore. Olivia's eyes filled with something I hadn't seen before, fear. What happens now? She asked quietly. I stood up slowly. Now, I repeated. I picked up the file and tapped it lightly. Now I make decisions, I said. Ryan shook his head again. You're going to regret this, he said. I met his gaze. I already regret trusting you, I replied. Everything after this is just correction. Olivia reached out again, but I stepped back. Don't, I said calmly. She lowered her hand slowly. You've changed, she whispered. I nodded once. I had to, I replied. Ryan let out a frustrated breath. So that's it, he asked. You just walk in and take everything? I looked at him. I didn't just walk in, I said. I built this moment. He didn't respond. Olivia looked at me one last time. Jason, she said softly. I held her gaze for a second, then turned away. This meeting is over, I said. I walked out of the room without looking back, my steps steady, my mind clear. Behind me, I could hear the silence they were left with, the kind of silence that follows realization. As I stepped into the hallway, Victor's voice echoed in my head. Power isn't given. It's taken. I allowed myself a small, controlled breath. No, I said quietly. It's earned. Olivia didn't call this time. She showed up. I heard the knock and already knew who it was. When I opened the door, she looked different. No confidence, no control, just quiet hesitation. Jason, she said softly. I stepped aside without a word. She walked in slowly, looking around like she didn't belong there anymore. You changed this place, she said. I closed the door. I changed a lot of things, I replied. She turned toward me, her eyes searching. Can we talk? I crossed my arms. We're talking, I said. She took a breath. I made a mistake. I stayed silent. She stepped closer. I know that now. I tilted my head slightly. Now? I asked. She lowered her gaze. Yes, now. I nodded once. Timing matters, I said. She sat down slowly like the weight of everything was pressing on her. Ryan, things aren't good, she admitted. I leaned against the wall. I know, I said. She looked up quickly. You know? I gave a small nod. I hear things, I replied. She ran a hand through her hair. He's losing everything, she said. The investors pulled out, the deals collapsed, he's not handling it. I didn't react. And you? I asked. She hesitated. I'm trying to fix it, she said. I let out a quiet breath. You're always trying to fix things after they break, I replied. She looked at me, her voice softer now. I didn't understand what I had, she said. I held her gaze. You understood, I said. You just didn't value it. Her eyes filled slightly, but she didn't look away. I miss you, she said quietly. I didn't respond. She swallowed. I miss how things were, how you were. I pushed myself off the wall and walked a few steps closer. How I was. I repeated. She nodded. You were steady, she said. You were calm, reliable. You made everything feel safe. I studied her face carefully. Safe isn't exciting, I said. She shook her head quickly. It is, she said. I just didn't see it then. I gave a small, almost amused smile. That's the problem, I replied. You saw it when it was gone. She reached out slightly. It doesn't have to be gone, she said. I stepped back before her hand could reach me. It does, I said calmly. She froze. Jason? I raised a hand gently. No, I said. Listen. She went quiet. You didn't just walk away, I continued. You replaced me. Her lips parted, but no words came out. That wasn't confusion, I added. That was a decision. She shook her head. I was lost, she said. I nodded slowly. Everyone is, I replied. Not everyone betrays people to fix it. She closed her eyes briefly. I regret it, she whispered. I watched her carefully. Regret doesn't change anything, I said. She opened her eyes again. It should, she said. I shook my head. It doesn't, I replied. It just comes after the damage is done. She stood up slowly, her voice breaking slightly. I thought you'd fight for me, she said. I looked at her, confused for a second. Fight for you? I repeated. She nodded. Yes, she said. I thought you'd come after me, try to fix us. I let out a quiet breath. I did, I said. Before you chose someone else. She flinched. I didn't think you'd let me go so easily. I smiled faintly. It wasn't easy, I said. It was necessary. She stared at me like she was trying to find something familiar again. There's nothing left? She asked. I shook my head. Not for you, I replied. Silence filled the room, heavy and final. She looked around again like she was saying goodbye to something she couldn't get back. Ryan said you changed, she said quietly. I nodded. He's right. She looked back at me. You don't even sound angry, she said. I shrugged slightly. Anger is loud, I replied. I'm past that. She stepped closer again, but slower this time. So what are you now? She asked. I met her eyes. Clear, I said. She exhaled shakily. I wish I could go back, she whispered. I shook my head. You can't, I said. And even if you could, I wouldn't be there. Her eyes finally broke, tears slipping down as she looked away. I lost everything, she said softly. I watched her for a moment, then spoke quietly. No, I said. You traded it. She wiped her face quickly. Does it feel good? She asked. I tilted my head. What? I asked. Watching us fall apart, she said. I thought about it for a second. No, I said honestly. It just feels expected. She nodded slowly like she understood that more than anything else. So this is it? She asked. I gave a small nod. This is it. She walked toward the door slowly, stopping just before opening it. Jason, she said without turning. I really did love you. I paused for a second, then replied quietly, I know. She stood there for a moment longer, then opened the door and left without another word. I stood there in the silence she left behind, my chest steady, my mind clear. My phone buzzed again, Ryan this time. I glanced at it, then set it down without answering. Too late, I said under my breath. I walked to the window and looked out at the city lights, the same view but a completely different perspective. I'm not going back, I whispered. The final move didn't feel dramatic. It didn't come with raised voices or last-minute chaos. It came quietly like everything else I had built. I stood in Victor's office as he reviewed the final documents. Everything is aligned, he said, placing the file down. I nodded once. Good, I replied. He looked at me carefully. You don't look excited. I let out a slow breath. I'm not, I said. He raised an eyebrow. After everything? I glanced at the papers. This isn't the part that matters, I said. He leaned back slightly. Then what does? I looked at him. Control, I answered. He smiled faintly. You finally understand. I didn't respond. I had already understood. Grace called a few minutes later. It's finalized, she said. Every asset tied to the island project is now under your authority. I walked toward the window. Any resistance? I asked. None that matters, she replied. Ryan tried to push back, but he doesn't have leverage anymore. I nodded slightly. And Olivia? I asked. Grace paused for a second. She signed everything, she said. She didn't have a choice. I closed my eyes briefly. Good, I said. Grace's voice softened slightly. You've taken everything back, she added. I opened my eyes again. No, I replied. I took what was always mine. She didn't argue. What's next? She asked. I looked out at the city. Nothing, I said. That's the point. Later that day, I walked through the island development site for the first time as the sole authority. The air felt different, not because the place had changed but because I had. A manager approached me quickly. Mr. Carter, he said, we've been waiting for your direction. I nodded slightly. Continue as planned, I replied. He hesitated. There were previous adjustments from Ryan Steele. I cut him off. Ignore them, I said calmly. He nodded. Understood. As he walked away, I heard voices behind me. I turned slightly and saw Ryan standing at a distance, looking like he didn't belong there anymore. He walked closer slowly. Jason, he said. I didn't move. Ryan, I replied. He looked around, then back at me. So this is it? He asked. I nodded once. This is it, I said. He let out a dry laugh. You really took everything, he said. I tilted my head slightly. You gave it away, I replied. He clenched his jaw. You think this makes you better? He asked. I met his gaze. No, I said. It makes me finished. He frowned. Finished? I nodded. I don't need anything from you anymore, I explained. He looked like he wanted to argue, but the words didn't come. We were friends, he said finally. I held his gaze. We were, I agreed. And you ended that. He looked down for a second, then back at me. I didn't think it would go this far. I shrugged slightly. That's because you weren't thinking at all. He stepped closer. You could have stopped this, he said. I shook my head. No, I replied. I just didn't stop you. He exhaled sharply. So that's it? He asked again. You win, I lose? I thought about it for a moment. This isn't a game, I said. It's just consequences. He looked around again like he was realizing how much had changed. I lost everything, he said quietly. I nodded once. You chose that, I replied. He looked at me for a long moment, then turned and walked away without another word. I stood there for a second before hearing another voice behind me. Jason. I didn't need to turn to know it was Olivia. I faced forward for a moment, then slowly turned. She looked different again, not broken this time, just empty. It's yours now, she said quietly. I nodded. It always was, I replied. She gave a small, tired smile. You really believe that? She asked. I met her eyes. I know it, I said. She looked down briefly, then back up. I thought I wanted more, she said. I didn't respond. I thought power meant control, she added. I tilted my head slightly. It does, I said. Just not the way you used it. She stepped a little closer but kept her distance. I lost everything, she said. I nodded. You traded it, I replied. She let out a quiet breath. You don't hate me, she said, almost surprised. I shook my head. No, I said. I don't feel anything. That seemed to hit her harder than anything else. She nodded slowly. That's worse, she whispered. I didn't argue. She looked around one last time, taking in the place she once thought she controlled. Take care of it, she said. I nodded once. I will. She hesitated for a moment, then turned and walked away just like Ryan did. I stayed there alone, the sound of the ocean in the distance, The project moving forward without chaos, without noise. My phone buzzed again, but I didn't check it. It didn't matter anymore. I walked toward the edge and looked out, letting the silence settle around me. This is it, I said quietly to myself. Not revenge. Not victory. Just clarity. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I just stood there, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not happiness. Not relief. Freedom.